Everyone, Ashley Mailloux, Scott Shapiro here, taking a look at the Wednesday race of the day for October 8th. And with Keeneland just kicking off a couple of days ago, Scott, it's obviously the right spot to go for Wednesday racing. They have an 8-race program. Our race of the day will be race number 7, a 7-furlong event for fillies and mares, a 3-year-olds and upward, a first level allowance, which it's just a field of 8, but I think it's a really intriguing race, Scott, from the fact that you look at some horses, they're in excellent recent form, and a few others that need to prove themselves off a bit of a time of a layoff, I should say.
Yes, you have a couple wild cards in there moving from turf to dirt. So I agree. We sometimes get massive fields and maybe they look chalky or not so fun to analyze. And I think this race is pretty intriguing. Looking forward to diving into it with you.
We will look at the time form US pace projection here for the 7-furlong sprint. And you can see favors front runners. It looks like a couple of horses could be in the mix. The rail runner has been forward, especially in those races, say 2 to 4 starts back. The 3, No What Ifs, is going to race off a freshening, but she doesn't like to be too far off of it and exit some races that are a little bit quicker. But she called from post 5. Maybe the pace setter. I'm curious to see this. I could see the 3 somehow even ending up on the lead.
Potentially, I think with Luis Saez on the 1, it kind of speaks to maybe intent. You get the rail, you have a horse, and you have a long shot. So I would expect that horse to at least try. And then you have She Called, who was pretty quick. The last couple of starts weren't as good, but she's coming off a freshening. Obviously, that can lead at times to a slow break, but more often than not, a little bit of a keen break. So I think it's probably right. I don't think we're going to see a fast pace.
The number 1's going to kick it off here. I'm a mathematician by trade, so English is tough for me, Scott. But I'm going to go with Severo Della Sala here, who was a winner 2 starts back, picked up that second career victory on the year, but 3rd total. And did it at Ellis Park in a 6-furlong event. And I thought got the right race flow, was close enough to the pace, was able to get by in the final stages. And then last time out, just didn't fire a bad effort, but to me, it wasn't the same level of effort we had seen in that prior race.
No, and I mean, I think she's up against it a little bit from a class perspective, exiting some starters. And prior to that, one of her wins came in a conditional, claiming 20 race over a muddy going. So I think she's up against it from that perspective. Trainer Anamia, she's 16% on the year. She's having a good year. And if you bet on her, positive ROI, but 2 for 58 at Keeneland over the last 5 years. I think a pace factor is probably the best you can hope for here.
The 2 Ticking Time blonde for Vicky Oliver. I actually find her to be a little intriguing in the spot. I know she's 0 for 4 on the dirt, but she is a daughter of Not This Time, who the dirt races were late last year. You look at some of the horses she faced in them. Her laugh had some hype behind her early in 2025. And I don't know. I actually don't mind her based on her works as well, getting onto a different surface.
No, I don't either. I think her races are decent. She ran a 2nd over this course. It was a dead heat for a 2nd. They pretty much just ran a run 2 around the racetrack, though, but I thought she ran well. She's a half to Bling, who we probably many out there know earned almost $750,000, mostly on the turf, a little bit on the all-weather. But I think this filly taking on older once again, but for the first time on dirt, maybe can outrun her odds.
The 3 No What Ifs. This one for Grant Forster was 3rd last time out, and that was all the way back in June. We're actually going to look at a replay from even further back than that, Keeneland, back in April, and very interesting track conditions late in the meet in the springtime at Keeneland. You can see she's going to be 2nd best in here at a big price behind Zadorsky, who comes back to win next time out. I thought it was a good effort. I think when you look at this track and how it plays, it's one of those tracks that I think position means everything early, and Zadorsky obviously was able to make a little bit of an earlier move between the half and the 3/4 and just drew away. And I think it makes you wonder here, No What Ifs. If she's ready to roll off the layoff, she's done very little wrong. I think she's a major player.
Sure has. And Me and Molly McGee is the one that won the last race where she finished 3rd at Churchill. She was in the test. Thought something went wrong. She pulled up. I think she might have gone bad in that race, but that was better competition than she's meeting here. Not surprised, Grant Forster, who does some training at Ellis, but more so focuses on the spring and fall in Kentucky and the winter down in New Orleans. Gave this one a little time off, probably one of the better horses in his barn. I think it's a good sign that he gets Jose Ortiz. I think she's, very certain to hit the board if she, comes close to firing her best, and probably the likeliest winner.
The 4 Pretty Sure is going to race with blinkers on for the first time. She's had LASIX in the last 2, but has never run with blinkers. And obviously was able to win on debut as a 2-year-old, jumps up to the Pocahontas grade 3 action out at Churchill. She's fourth. She rolled late there in a big field who won at Lacara, who we know what she's gone on to do since then. But even in her next start, I didn't love that effort, but Reputations turned out to be pretty good. She's a stakes winner. And I think now just making that third start of the year after having a little bit of a freshening, wouldn't it be shocking to see her get a piece against this group?
No, Brendan Walsh off to a white hot start at the meet as well. And we've seen this a couple of meets recently at Keeneland where Brendan's horses fire their best shots. The negative to me is she really hasn't moved forward from that off of that debut win in terms of numbers. In fact, her last couple of efforts been a little dull. And maybe that's why Brendan's adding the blinkers, hoping it kind of wakens her up a little bit. And the group she beat at Ellis, I think, was a pretty soft group in that maiden effort. So I'm siding against her, but she definitely scares me because the barn is hot.
Yeah, very, very hot, as you mentioned, 9 for 11 in the money at the meet with just 3 days in the books, 45% in terms of wins. The number 5 She Called is now going to move to the barn of David Fox. And when you look at the Leap Longs, they do have horses with Fox. They do have them with Cassie. They've given her time off. They've done the barn change. And a little interesting to see her. She's typically shown speed, and we saw it in the Timeform US pace projector. She's likely to be forward, but I feel like in her last two, obviously, 2 back, she had issues. She tried to roll from off of it. She still did, to some extent, close. But more recently, I wonder if it was a little bit of a mindful move. She ran into some traffic, but early on to try to have her rate, and she just came up a little flat again.
That's an interesting point. I know Norm was very high on this horse originally, and she's kind of been a bit of a disappointment. I think this might have been the last horse that the LeBlancs moved from Norm to Fox. I think you're going to end up seeing most, if not all of them, with David now. I think she's, got some talent. I know that she's been working kind of regularly, 5 works since then. I think she's going to show speed in here if she's anything close to her best, even if last time was maybe a different plan. I don't know if she's going to be able to get back to her best, though. I wonder if Norm got the best out of her back in March of last year or, the spring.
The 6 Lady Go-Go, this one for Tom Drury Jr., was third last time out. It was just her second start since March. And you can see she's been put away for a couple of months after each of her efforts. I feel like her body of work, though, she hasn't done a lot wrong. They've tried different things with her. In her last out effort, I actually really liked it. I know she still wasn't really going to get to the top 2, but I think in terms of now, second start off the freshening again, I think this is the right spot to regroup.
Yeah, I like her as well in here. Interesting that Tommy has given her the time off, but maybe, she just needs a little more time for between her races. Don't want to hold that against her. I think her 2 dirt races have been good. And yeah, that last effort, she kind of dove inside. Irving Moncada will be back in. Didn't really get to the rail, but I think the outside was the place to be that day. So, I thought that the run was pretty good. I thought probably the best finish of her career. And if she doesn't leave herself with too much to do here, I think she'll be tough to hold off.
The 7 Belle of the Dance, Bernatra Correas, was able to score in the second career start. More recently, went to a first level allowance, but they switched her onto the turf, and it wasn't just any turf course. It was Kentucky Downs. So I think it's safe to say we can draw a line through that. Whether we see her on the turf again in the future, that's a whole different conversation. But looking at her dirt form, I did think her win 2 back was quite good. And I know the runner-up came back to win next time out, so somewhat of a productive race. Just curious. I still think this is a pretty big step up, even coming from Colonial dirt.
Yeah, I would agree. Those Colonial dirt races, a little tough to assess. There's not a ton of them each day, so the numbers to me can be a little bit less than ideal compared to some other tracks. But you mentioned Beat the Harmony Road, who came back to win a restricted maiden special weight. It's interesting Irad gets aboard here. Obviously, turf to dirt is an angle as well, though not a good one for trainer Nacho Correas, who will be retiring at the end of the year. If she's 12-1, it's hard for me to knock someone that wants to take a shot with her, second off the bench here. But I do think it's a step up, a step up, like you said.
And then rounding out the field is the Louisiana bred, the 8 Canal Street for Brett Calhoun. She is just, 1 for 6, and she's got a couple of minor shares there in the second and third spots. And more recently, didn't fire. It was her first start off the bench. She went back to the bench. But I do think when you start to dig through her form, say 2 starts back and 4 starts back, you see the names of Blue Fire and Margie's Intention, horses that have done very well. And they've, moved to outside of Louisiana, and they still have performed. And I don't know. There's something about her that I think it's intriguing to find her here. And I think she's going to offer value, maybe worth a sliver.
I think she can run some. I mean, Margie's Intention, as you mentioned, who was second in the Crescent City Oaks at Fairgrounds, came back to win the Black Eyed Susan. The one thing I'll say is she can run well here. She's in, a little bit tough. But I think this is a filly that, at the very least, is prepping. They're gonna take her down to Louisiana probably after this race for the big races down there. So they get to protect her. They get a race here for a big purse. And worst case, she doesn't run that well, and she'll take on state bred competition.
Yeah, get a little fitness under her belt. So a field of 8 here for the Wednesday race of the day. Don't forget it's race number 7 at Keeneland. Free past performances on the DRF website. And we will move to our top picks. And, on the morning line, the 3 no what ifs is 2-1. And not that we're getting a lot more value on the 6, but I think the thing that Lady Go-Go has, at least the way that I saw it, Scott, has that race last time out where I feel like she can build off of it. And I do have more of a reservation. We really don't know what no what ifs is going to do off her freshening. She's never really had a break.
No, that's a good point, and it very well could be that mentality for Grant Forster, who lives across the street from Churchill Downs, that might be pointing second off the layoff. I just think Lady Go-Go will be a little bit of a better price, and if it comes down to who's going to finish better, I think I trust her to outfinish no what ifs, especially like you said with the start under her belt.
So it's clear here, Lady Go-Go, the 6 is the top pick, and for us, the logical, the 3 no what ifs, the second place. But outside of that, you can go price shopping, look for maybe some value in the exotic. Scott goes to the 2 and the 7. I go to the 4 and the 8. So interesting way to kick off the late double this Wednesday at Keeneland. Good luck.